Coaching in Session.
Your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
Welcome, Danny Lehr, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Today we're going to be talking about your works, and the works are going to be something I think many people are going to be looking at in their life, how to win. And we're also going to be talking about your book, the idea, Win Your Next Hour. And it's so important to understand how we can take small steps to our goals. Some people, they look at the year and it becomes so daunting. But if we can break it down into bite-sized steps, it's going to be more palatable for the brain or for the mind. So if you could, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and of course, how you help people?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Danny. I was a PE teacher and kind of PE teacher turned entrepreneur. And through that experience, between teaching PE, coaching, high school sports, all that type of thing, I then also was an athlete. I was a competitive weightlifter and was coached by some of the best coaches in the country and really around the world. And through that, I met a bunch of really interesting people. So between competing in weightlifting and running a business, I basically spent about a decade traveling around the country, spending time around ultra high achievers. So I'm talking, a handful of Olympians, including an Olympic gold medalist and his coach. And we stayed in a house with them for about 2 weeks. I also have some friends that started businesses from scratch that now do $200 million a year. One guy sold his business for $1.4 billion. And what I kind of realized through this is all of these ultra high achievers, if it's in business or if it's in athletics, whatever it is, they kind of say the same things, they do the same things, they act the same way, they kind of think similarly in a lot of ways. And I realized that there's all these connections that a lot of people wouldn't put together because they don't have the access to these people, right? I think about, some of my friends or, my parents, whatever. It's like, I don't know if they've met an Olympian, right? Let alone spent 2 weeks around an Olympic gold medalist to get that opportunity. And so through that, I realized, well, I should probably share some of the stuff that I've learned, because I also kept seeing these same lessons pop up in my own life. When I have something I want to do or want to accomplish, I found that, man, I'm actually like following these same steps and doing these same things that all these other ultra high achievers did. And I realized that my time spent with them kind of changed the way that I think and the way that I, take things on. And so that's what led me to write the book and try and share this message, get it out there. And because a lot of times these books or these, I don't know, you want to say self-help or personal development books, professional development books, sometimes they're a little too up in the clouds, right? And so I want to put everything down that's really an action book, right? At the end of every chapter, it's like, all right, now do this now. Stop what you're doing, do this now. It's funny. I was one of the guys that I interviewed for the book is very successful. Same thing. His business does over $100 million annually, started from absolutely nothing. And when we were talking about it, he said, yeah, win your next hour. He said, actually, Danny, if I'm going to be honest with you, I hope that they don't win their next hour. I hope they win this one. I hope they stop reading right now, put this down and start taking action. And that was really the mindset that I wrote the book from. It's like, okay, like here are step-by-step instructions on how you can be successful in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, very good. I think it's very similar to Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits to Highly Successful People. And the idea of every chapter or every section is like, okay, get to work,
right?
Not just read the pages. And I know people, they look for the secret sauce. They're like, give me the secret sauce, like, give me the easy road. I just want the A to B, right? I don't want the fluff. Just say what I have to do. But then, what's crazy? If you tell them what they have to do, they don't do it. Which is insane. It's like, hey, you got to do this. And then they're like, oh, yeah, it's a lot of work, actually, the moment they start doing it. So it could be daunting, if we take it on as a whole, right? So let's say I say, okay, I want you to take this whole pizza and I want you to eat it all in one bite. It's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to do that. And sometimes we have to look at our journey in life as that. Everyone wants to go in the fast lane. Everyone wants to go 100 miles an hour. They want to get to the destination. They want the goal. They want the house. They want the guys, the girls, whatever it be in life. They want the accolades. But there has to be some work that is done in the beginning, right? And when I say that, right, what is the first thing that comes to your mind to that work that needs to be done, that someone has to do in order to want to go on this journey for the long run and the long term?
First of all, you have to know what you want to do. Like, what's the goal, right? So sometimes that's really simple. Sometimes people say, I want to hike the Appalachian Trail, or I want to, whatever, start a business. Okay. But then sometimes they just say, I want to lose weight. Well, like, what the hell does that even mean? Right? Like, all right, like, don't eat tomorrow, weigh less. Like, that's losing weight. Is that the goal? Like, no, you don't, you want to lose 40 pounds. You want to change your body composition. You want it, right? And these are, more tangible goals. So you have to know what success looks like. Like, that's step one, is like, how do you know if you've been successful? So if your goal is to, so recently I did a bike ride, right? So there's, and it's funny because I'm not a cyclist, or I wasn't, I guess you could say, but I was talking to a friend of mine who's done this bike ride around Lake Tahoe, and it's 73 miles around Lake Tahoe. It's at elevation. It's like 6,200 feet. And it's a fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And so I said, oh man, that's cool. Like, I'd like to do that. I've driven around quite a few times. It seems like it'd be a good challenge. And he's like, oh, you could do it, And so that was a very clear goal. Like, okay, well, when is the ride? The ride is on June 1st, right? And so I'm going to ride my bike around Lake Tahoe. So then I knew what my goal was. I knew what success looked like. It'd be successfully riding 73 miles, with whatever 4,000 feet of elevation gain at around Lake Tahoe. So then with that, okay, well, now I know what the goal is. Now I can take the right steps and get there. But you have to have that clear vision of what success looks like and what the end goal is before you really do anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the ideas of the goal. Then we have the preparation for it, getting ready for the race, and then the execution of doing the race. And then, of course, accomplishing the goal of the race is to complete the 73 miles. Not just to say, yeah, I did 10 miles and my back started to hurt, my legs started to hurt. And I can't tell you how many people, they start something and they just stop.
Right.
They say, oh, I tried, but I didn't really, give it my all. And then they try again. It's more difficult because it's the same as with running. If you are running any length of mileage and you stop, it's more difficult to start back.
Oh, totally.
Because you're like, this feels good. Your brain is like, the body's like, this feels amazing, right?
Totally.
Instead of me torturing myself, I'm just going to just take it easy, right? But what happens with runners is that they get this, runner high. They get into zone and they're just cruising. They're just like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I beat my brain when they're at that point. When we get to the average people, right? Most of the time, they're going to let their brain beat them. They're going to give up. They're going to give in. And when we look at these areas, right, the goal, like, that's, pretty simple, but then many people don't know the goal. The preparation is the idea of it, and then the execution is doing it. Where would you say people failed the most in these three categories?
I think most people don't start. I think most people have something they want to do, but they feel like they don't know enough to start. But the reality is that you can't start, you can't know what to do until you start. And we see this in all aspects of life. We see it with big tech companies, like Microsoft and Apple, that started in someone's garage, right? We see this with first-time parents. Like, you don't really know how to raise a kid until you have a kid, right? Like, you're not practicing. It's not like there's babies everywhere. We can just go practice changing diapers. Like, you just got to change some diapers, figure it out, right? And that's, so we see this everywhere. And so the big thing is just getting started. A lot of people, I don't even know enough to start. Well, that's, of course not, right? So let's just start and then tackle these as we go.
Now we're getting to this idea of where could people find people that can help them along the way? And this is not to say that I'm looking for someone to guide me 100% of the way and to do everything for me. I don't want that conversation. It's more of, I'm interested in starting, right? Because they have this idea, they're listening to the podcast. They want to maybe learn more about your book and they're interested in starting, right? But they might not know who to turn to, because they might turn to a friend and their friend is a nobody. And a nobody, I'm meaning in the mindset, like, they don't want anything for their life. Maybe their parents, maybe out of the picture, or maybe just kind of, your 9-to-5ers, like, they didn't really ask for much in life. This is just falling with the circumstances. Life can give you many things And maybe people, they just fall into it and they just, find themselves, down the road, 40, 50, and they're like, whoa, where did my life go? And so this idea of getting a mentor or guide or someone that can say, hey, I'm with you, right? But you have to be the person to ignite everything. So where would someone begin to look for those types of individuals?
I think the first thing is just knowing kind of again, it comes back to knowing what your goal is. What are you trying to do? And then once you know in your mind, okay, this is something I'm going to do, just start looking for stuff around. I'm going to give you a couple examples, mostly from my own life, because those are the ones that are easy to draw from. Not that I'm perfect or do everything perfect all the time, but it's just very clear examples. So we can go that same bike ride. It's okay. So I want to ride my bike around Lake Tahoe, 73 miles. I'm not a cyclist. All right. I didn't have a bike. I mean, I did. I had like a beach cruiser, right? So like I went and bought an old, like a 2008 model road bike on Facebook Marketplace, and then just kind of fixed it up over the course of a year. Like every month I just changed something else on it. And now basically it's the frame that I bought. And then it just $40 at a time. I just kind of, okay, I need to replace the derailleurs. And I'd watch YouTube videos and figure it out. And I kind of like go through that process, right? But the point is, I didn't know, anything about cycling really. And so I have the friend who's done it before. So I could talk to him. Hey, what do you do to prepare for this? Right? Just ask them what they got going on. But then also what I did is I looked, and because this was a fundraiser, there's different groups around the country that help raise money for this. And so I not to sign up. I said, do you want to sign up as an individual or do you want to join a team? Well, there's a team that's 30 miles from where I live. I said, yeah, I'm going to join that team. Right? Because knowing by joining that team that's 30 miles away, they are going to have these things in place. And it just so happened that team is the biggest fundraising group in the entire world for this event. Like as a team, we raised something like over like $3 million for the Leukemia Society over this, right? And so we go there, and they specialize in new people. They get people all the time who have never like ridden a bike, or like maybe as a child, but have never done any cycling, and they train you up. And so by signing up, I said, okay, well, I'm going to join this team. I don't know anybody there, so there's that little hesitation, like, oh, what are they going to be like, type thing. But then I sign up, I start getting emails. Hey, our first ride is this Saturday. Like, if you're brand new, make sure you're there this day. We're only going to go, we're going to go 10 miles. That's probably the furthest you've ever ridden a bike, but just come on out. And I did. And so then every Saturday they had training rides leading up to that weekend, and they got progressively longer, right? Next thing you know, it's 30 miles. Now we're going 40 miles. Now we're going 52 miles. Oh, we're going to these different areas, because I wouldn't even know where to go. Where do I go to ride? Like, I don't want to go with a bunch of traffic. Got to try and find somewhere that's like safe roads, and also riding in a group. Like, how do you ride in a group? I don't know. And so, it was like going to cycling school essentially, because I joined this group. Right. And so another example is in the early 2010, around there, I started, I was doing CrossFit, and I decided I wanted to do a little weightlifting, like Olympic style weightlifting. And so I said, okay, well, did a couple meets and they went pretty well. I said, okay, this is, I need some help with this. And so I just looked up, okay, I knew there's this coach that was pretty well known, that was relatively close. So I hired him for a personal training session. So I went out there and I did one session with him, and didn't really jive with them too well. So, okay, that's fine. So then I kind of looked a little bit more, and I found, oh, actually this guy, Glenn Penley, he was one of the best respected coaches in the United States, and had coached over 100 national champions. Oh, he's doing a seminar that's an hour from my house. So I signed up and went to the seminar. I'm there. I meet some people, actually find someone who I do get along with out there. So then I sign up for some personal training with him, and I drive out there once a week. Fast forward 6 months down the road, and I'm just training with the team, right? And so then I got a part of this team, and the way we trained, you got really good really fast, or you quit, basically. And so, so then the goals they set for me, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, you really try hard. They're like, okay, this is how it's going to go. In 6 months, you're going to qualify for this national level meet, and you're going to go and have fun. And then the next year, you're going to go and place top 10. And then you're going to medal. And there's a couple national champions on the team. So you believe them. You're like, okay, I guess I'll just do what these guys tell me, but that was it. I had no idea what I was doing. There's no one right in my hometown that was really good at it. And so I just, went to try one person, didn't really jive that well. Okay, no problem. Oh, here's a seminar over here. Go that. And so you just got to kind of put yourself in the room, right? Find these people. Another example is with business. I I've hired a coach, right? So I was a PE teacher. And then when I quit teaching to go full time, business was taking off and something I had to give. So then I was like, man, I should probably figure out what I'm doing. And instead of, I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes, that's okay, but I'm going to try to make fewer mistakes. And so there was a book that I read, and I really liked the guys. He really focused on kind of the business success, but also not at the cost of everything else in your life, because I had a baby at that time. And so I hired him. And so there we go. So I went and I did a one-day seminar with them that included a year of coaching after that. And so I hired a coach that could help me with that. And so the point is that I think once you know what you want to do, you just got to start looking, look around, who's out there. And this happens at higher levels also. A friend of mine, Wes Kitts, he's a 2-time Olympian, and he's from Knoxville. Well, before he was an Olympian, he was just a weightlifter, and he was like, oh, I guess I'm pretty good at this. Started getting pretty good. And said, okay, well, if I want to really pursue this dream, I just want to see how good I could be. How good could I get? They have weights in Knoxville. It's not like they don't, and there's some coaches and stuff there, whatever. But he knew that there's this team, California Strength, that's out in the Bay Area, and we've got a coach out there that's really good. There's a team that you can go and train with this team that are really good and help push each other. They've had success. They have a bunch of national champions on the team. And so he had a little gym. He closed down his gym, and then moved across the country to put himself in that environment. So that's a little more of an extreme example, but it's the same thing, right? He just knew that I needed to be around these people who have had success before and go train with them. And so sometimes maybe there's not an expert nearby, but there's just someone who's a little bit further down the road than you, right? It's like I say sometimes, it's like you only have to know how to count to 3 to teach someone to count to 2. And so if there's someone who's an expert, that's better. But if not, shit, dude, you want to start baking cookies? Maybe go hang out with your grandma, she could probably teach you some stuff. And so you just got to find somebody who's a little further down the road, who's done what you've done. And then ideally, if it's someone who's coached people to do what you want to do, right? And just go meet them. It doesn't have to be a big commitment. Just go meet them, see what's up. And what I've found just about every single time is that people want to help you, right? Because you're telling them, hey, that thing that you're passionate about, I think I want to try it too. And if you're passionate about something, you get stoked when someone else wants to do it. It's like, hell yeah, man, I'd love for you to come over here, join me. I'll teach you everything, because they're excited to have another weightlifter, to have another cyclist, to have another person that's pursuing the same thing that they love to do, right? They're trying to share it with people already. You're just the person that gives them the opportunity to share it. And so that's what I'd say is just start looking. What do you want to do, and who is around you that's done it before? Maybe there's a group you can join. Is there a group you can join? Is there a coach you can hire? Is there, something like that?
Yeah, I like the idea of everything you said, especially the idea of having different coaches where you tried a coach, didn't work, but then you found a coach. And so it's very similar to what I say is that, you just have to find the spice that works for you.
Yeah.
Some people, they like extremely hot. I don't know if you ever saw it's like a podcast or show where he brings on people and he has 10 hot sauces.
Hot ones, I think, right?
Yeah. Hot ones. And basically they start off mild, easy, and then it gets all the way to spicy.
Yeah.
Some people can make it all the way to the spicy and they're like, yeah, I'm good. And some people are like ready to die.
For sure.
And you can just see the different levels of spices and how it's affecting the person. And you just have to find the right spice or the right flavor that works for you. And you just have to mesh well with the group. For example, I've done many groups as well. Starting off, I wanted to learn guitar in college. And I was like, oh, it'll be nice to learn guitar just to get some girls, right? But then it turned into so much more. I became a music teacher for some time. And went on that journey, I didn't really know much about music. It was just me learning some chords and watching some YouTube videos. And I joined the music club at my college. And I got to meet some great musicians. And the advisors, they were all great musicians as well. And I basically was introduced into so many different avenues because he was a teacher teaching children, and he was like, yeah, come in and play for the children. So I'm playing for the children now. And it's like, okay, great. And then it just transitioned. Everything just kept transitioning. And it's funny, long story short, I was 18, 19 when I joined the music club. And I guess I graduated 22, 23 around there. And it was funny because he came to my recital, my jazz recital in college. And he was like, just kind of reminiscing. He's like, I remember the kid who came in and he didn't know how to play. Yeah. And look at you on stage, with a full band doing a full set. And I was like, that's a journey. And I think sometimes people, they see the end, the end goal, the end result, as I was saying, and they would just love to have the skill given to them. But very similar to how you bought that bike off Facebook Marketplace and you just did, every month, a little piece of it. It was a journey rather than just going to the bike store and purchasing a bike, because I know how many people will say that's a lot of work, like, to do that. But I think something happens when you invest in that, where you're like, I'm investing my, some time in this versus I just bought a bike. How many people buy a gym membership or they buy a piece of equipment and it sits there and nothing is done with it, where they don't necessarily understand every minute or every hour. And what I want to do is transition into the book and this idea of, win your next hour is very similar to this idea of, we can do it in a month, right? Like every month, $40 to the bike, we fix up something. I got other things that on my plate, but I'm still making time for a goal that I have down the road. And I know it can get daunting for some people when they have multiple obligations, especially if you have a family. You're like, I have to be a father, I have to be a husband, I have to be a wife, I have to be, whatever. You have so many choices to make. How do you help people win that next hour if they have all of the weights of the world weighing down on them?
Sure. So the basics of the book and what I really teach is a simple system that's actually the WIN system. And that's an acronym. So W stands for words, I stands for invest. So you led right into that. And then the N stands for noting your progress. And it's just real brief on this. Not that, I guess, not very many things I do are real brief, but, relatively brief on this. It's the W is words. And so you just got to use your words and tell people what you're going to do. Because once you start telling people what you're going to do, you'd be amazed what doors open and what opportunities are there. And using your words actually is really important for 3 different reasons. One is it adds accountability, right? Because once you start telling people what you're going to do, they're going to ask you about it. And also, if you have a supportive spouse, or if you tell your wife or your husband, say, hey, there's this thing I want to do. I'm really, this is my plan for it. This is how I kind of want to do it to make sure I still have time for the family, stuff like that. Like, if you're excited about it, you probably have some of those things worked out. Maybe not all the details, but you got some ideas, right? And then, if they're a supportive spouse, they're probably going to say, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, then I'm going to help out where I can. Or another example of that is my parents, right? So again, we'll talk about the cycling adventure because it's recent and it applies to all these things. As part of that, you got to go on these long rides. Like, you can't just show up and ride 73 miles if the furthest you've ever gone is 10. And so there's these every Saturday, there's these rides. And so there's sometimes you're out of town, can't make it. But if I was in town, I needed to go. This shit takes time. Like, if you're going to go ride, 50 miles on your bike, and if you're averaging 15 to 20 miles an hour, you're going to be out there for 3 hours, dude. That's just how it goes, right? And then plus, it's not like I'm just leaving from my house. You're starting somewhere. And if you're going to be up in the hills to get some, elevation and climbing experience, it might be an hour drive to get there when we're starting at 7 or 8 a.m. And so my wife's a nurse. And so she works every other weekend. And so I can't just skip the weekend she's at work, And so then I'd talk to my parents or, someone else. It's like, hey, could you possibly watch the kids Saturday morning? And so then I'm dropping my kids off at my in-laws' house at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday so that I can drive an hour away so that I can ride a bike for 4 hours, right? But that's what I needed to do to be successful, right, in this goal. And what the funny thing is, I asked my in-laws, I say, hey, is it okay if I, could you watch the girls? I'm doing this bike ride. It's a fundraiser for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, 73 miles around Tahoe. And so we have these training rides. And so it's I really need to go so that you still have a son-in-law at the end of the weekend, and so, hey, and you start telling them what you need, and you'd be amazed how many people want to help you if they know the reason, if they know why and the reason and what's going on and what you need. You just got to tell people what you need, And the truth is, like, if they weren't available, my neighbors would probably do it. Pretty good friends of ours, right? And so I could have, so I had a few different options, and I know that everyone's situation is different. But the point is, like, you just got to use your words and tell people what you need. So one is that you have the accountability, because now you're telling people. So they're going to start asking you how it's going. Hey, how's that cycling going? Hey, did you get on your bike today? Right. 2, people want to help. So you have to let them, but they can't help you unless they know what you're up to. Right. And the third thing is it bolsters your self-belief. In fact, back to my friend Wes Kitts, the Olympian, I asked him one time, because I was thinking about, it's like, man, sometimes I'm like scared to tell people what I want to do because they might think, oh, whatever, it's a pie in the sky idea or whatever. I said, man, telling people your goals to win the Olympics or even qualify for the Olympics, like, that sounds terrible. That sounds really like hard to do. Like, do you remember when you started telling people, like, weren't you scared? And he was like, oh yeah, dude, I was terrified. I said, but he realized pretty early on that if he can't bring himself to say it out loud, how can he truly believe it himself? And if you don't truly believe it yourself, you're not going to put in the time, effort, energy it takes to actually accomplish it. When things get hard, you're going to quit, or you're going to maybe just try just a little. Hey, you know what, man, I don't really know if I can do that anyway. Hey, I really need to go this, back to the biking. Like, I need to go on this ride on Saturday, but I don't know, man. Like, I got the kids, my wife's working, I can't go on this training ride because I got to stay home and watch my kids. Well, the more times I would make that decision, the less likely I am to accomplish the goal, and the less likely I'm going to believe in myself. Whereas on the flip side, knowing that I went to, not all, but I went to many of these training rides, when it was time, when it was, when the race is going to start, I was 100% confident that I was going to finish the ride because I knew I put in the work, I put in the time, I put in the effort, right? But it's almost impossible to put in that time and effort, right, if you don't actually believe the end result is possible. And so what you'll find is when you start telling people what you want to do, is every time you say it out loud, you believe it more and more and more. And that self-belief is huge as far as, again, putting in the effort and everything to make it possible. And so when it comes down to, like, what's something I can do right now, I don't even know where to start. Well, the first thing to do is, as we mentioned, like, figure out what you actually want to do, right? Then the second thing is start telling people. Start telling people, because maybe, you got this friend and you just mentioned to him, hey, there's a thing, I really want to do it. Well, he may not be whatever, a cyclist. He may not own his own business. He may not whatever, know how to lose weight. But maybe that dude's cousin is a personal trainer and can help you lose that weight. Oh, actually, you know what? My cousin Jim, right? Like, you just never know what's going on. And you can't know unless other people know what you need, right? So using your words is so crucial. And then as far as the invest, you brought it up yourself. You mentioned yourself, is that it doesn't always have to be money. People think about money when you talk about investing, but it can be money, sure. And that's actually a very effective motivator in a lot of ways. It also can be time, energy, right? All these different things, your pride, when you start talking about things. And so, yeah, example of that bike is I did it really inexpensively as far as, these road bikes go. But it was a lot of time and learning of this stuff, right? When it came to writing the book, I knew I wanted to write a book. I have a friend who's published some books and I talked to him a little bit, but I don't know if I'd have enough skin in the game to really go through with this if I didn't have some sort of accountability with it. And so I paid to join a program where they hook you up, they set you up with, editors, and you have timelines and all this. And so it's a different thing. Now I know I paid this money for this program to help me write this book, right? And so I would write, 2,500 words a week, and then I would meet with an editor every single week. And so if I knew if I'm going to be sitting in front of this editor, I don't want to sit there and say I didn't write anything this week, right? So I have that accountability piece, but also I invested the money, right, to get set up this program where they would help me with this. And so the only way I'm getting that money back is if I actually complete this book and publish it and sell some copies, right? And so the investing there, really made me, follow through on what I want to do. So those are just some examples of, things that help you get going now, get started, and things that you can do all that stuff. You can do those things today. Start planting the seeds for it. especially the first one, use your words. Like, how simple is that? Just tell people what you want to do.
We do that a lot in school with like use your words, especially to kids when they're doing the wrong thing or they can't really explain themselves. It's like, hey, use your words.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just have to kind of, go down memory lane and say, hey, we can take a step back and we can look at how far we've come. And I know when it comes to success is very individualized because someone who might consider success being a mansion versus someone living in a cabin. I mean, they both can say they're successful, but it's different. And so I wanted to get your mindset on the two words, and I believe they're synonyms in the sense of win and success of, like, is a person who wins successful?
Well, so that's interesting because I believe winning has to do with the end result, right? And so that's the differentiators. I think you can be successful without necessarily getting the winning result, right? It's kind of funny. Sometimes people say like, talk about like the journey and stuff, which there's something to that. But then it's like, you already won when you showed up. It's like, not if the other team scores more points, you didn't win, right? Now you could have success still through the training and all those things and enjoy those, right? But I believe the difference is that the winning is the end result. You have to have accomplished the thing that you set out to accomplish to have won, right? Now, you can experience success many different times along the way, right? And I think that's the crucial thing. And that's when we talk about, doing the work that it takes to get the end result, right? You can have success along the way doing the work that it takes. And the truth is about winning is, the whole idea of winner next hour, and there's an acronym WIN, like these steps will lead you to win, right? However, when it really comes down to it, really what they do is they put you in the position to win. Because the real truth is, especially if it's a competition, right? A direct competition against other people, there's a lot of things you have no control over, right? I have no idea how good, like when I was wrestling or coaching wrestling, I have no idea how good this other kid is that you're going to wrestle against. He might be the freaking state champ from last year. You can't control that, right? What can you control? You can control your preparation, your attitude, and your effort. And that's it. Those are the only three things you actually have control over is your preparation, your attitude, and your effort. And so if you are prepared, if you, have the right attitude, if you effort as much as you need to, well, then that's success. That's success. You may not win the match, but you had success because you did everything you can and put yourself in position. The ride around Tahoe. Dude, if I was, halfway through and a cable broke or I like hit a rock at a weird angle and the sprocket or a spoke blew out or something and I couldn't continue, like that's not, things happen. There's nothing you have no control over, And so I would say I wouldn't have completed my goal. Maybe I wouldn't have won that goal, right? But I could still say, well, I had success in a lot of ways. I had all the training, I had the preparation. I was mentally, physically prepared. I was trying as hard as I can. There was literally nothing else I could do from an effort perspective, right? And so these things happen, So I think that's the difference between winning and success. Is the goal is to put yourself in position to win. There's a strength coach, Dan John. I interviewed him for the book, and I followed him for a little while. And anyway, he kept saying, you control the controllables, right? And like that's really it. Like you control the controllables. And the truth is, I've said it 3 or 4 times, I'm going to say it again. And the only controllables are your attitude, your effort, and your preparation. And so you can have success in those. And most of the time, that will lead to the favorable outcome. That will lead to the win. But the truth is, on match day, whether or not you win, a lot of times has nothing to do with that moment. It's got nothing to do with you, right? It has to do with everything you've done up to that point. And then on that day, your attitude and effort, right? But if those things are as hard as if you got those things done, the end result, that has nothing to do with you.
They say you can't lose if you don't give up. But
yeah, tell that to the guy that scored more points. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like he beat
exactly.
you, he won. Deal with it, right? Like that's okay. That's okay, right?
Yeah, it's the idea though now
Right.
of where people are trying, maybe they're just losing like constantly, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
dude.
marriages, maybe being a parent, maybe starting businesses, right? Like they're taking the L's, like they're taking the licks heavy. And maybe they are just like failing in one of these areas of preparation, attitude, and effort. But then also, it could be that maybe something inside of them is pushing them in some different way. And I like to think of it as if you were meant to be an Olympic gold medalist and you were just maybe sitting on the sofa eating cheeseburgers every night, something inside of you is going to say, hey, buddy, there's something out there for you.
Yeah.
And maybe you go get a 9 to 5 job and you're making some nice money, but then there's something out there. Hey, something out there still for you. So it's just this idea in your mind. This is something that's like egging you on. And it's very similar to this idea of fulfillment. Like you're trying to do something you were destined to
Yeah.
do or be. And I'm sure you might have felt it, or you might have been around people who just knew in their mind, like, this is what I was meant to do. And when someone has that clairvoyant focus, would you say that they're unstoppable in a sense?
Well, I mean, I think that comes down to, people say, I guess persistence would be a word. Some people say like stick-to-itiveness, right? I actually, again, a friend of mine, Bedros Keuilian, he's a pretty successful guy. I talked to him when I was writing the book. He's been a friend of mine for a while now. And that's something he talked about a lot, actually. When we say like, hey, like what keeps you going, or what motivates you, or what, whatever. Like, what's the driving force to keep driving forward, even though you've had some success in different ways? And he said, man, you can call it what you want. A lot of people, maybe it was God, maybe it's the universe. But he said, I'm talking about it's this nagging voice inside you. Like there's this thing that needs to be done that you can't let go. Like you got this idea and then you just can't shake it. Right. And he said he believes that is a calling. That's your calling. Like if you got this nagging voice, this thing, you can't shake it. Like it's your duty to pursue that, right? It's your duty. Most often it'll be to others in the end. Also it's to yourself, right? And so a lot of times when people have problems with, depression and drugs and alcohol and different things, a lot of times that's because they're ignoring that voice. They know there's something they should be doing, right? They know that they're currently not living the right way or not doing the right thing. And they're hiding it. They're masking it, right? They're covering up these other things. And so it's your duty to yourself and to others to pursue that voice, and to say, okay, if there's this thing that I just can't shake, I can't let go of. Okay, well, where do I start? Right? Like what's the end goal? And, what are the resources? Is there a book I can read to learn a little bit about this? Is there a local group or someone I know? And start to kind of talk to people. And you may not know exactly what it is. Like, hey, I kind of got this feeling that I want to try this, right? What do you think? Right? Just kind of start talking to people. And again, see where those conversations lead. But I think, when there's that nagging voice inside you, I think that I agree with Bedros. I think that it's your duty to act on that. And not doing so is, it's like, you really think you should just defy God like that? Oh, it doesn't seem like a good idea. It's one way to think about it.
Yeah, we had a rich conversation full of so many different stories and steps that people can be taking toward a better self. We touched on your book a little bit, but before you go, I do want you to give us some parting words, and then also to let people know where they can find you, of course, purchase your book and all of that.
Yeah, of course. I think that, most people have something they want to do, right? Whether it's opening a coffee trailer for a side hustle, whether it's launching a big business, maybe it's going back to school to change careers. But again, you might be scared because you don't know where to start. And so I just want to encourage you that you just need to start. The way to go is just to start and figure it out as you go. And you can do it. You'd be amazed what people can do, right? And you know what? If you fail, that's okay, because at least you tried, right? It's better to try and fail than to not try at all. Like that's absolutely true. You might regret some things that happened that caused you to fail, but if not even trying, you will definitely regret that. And so you just got to try things out, see how far you can get. And if you're interested, if you like the idea of winning your next hour, then check out the book, Win Your Next Hour. If you go to winyournexthour.com. That has all the links. There's an Audible, it's on Kindle, it's on Amazon, it's on barnesandnoble.com. Anywhere you want to buy your books, you can get it there. If you go to winyournexthour.com. And then personally, the best place to find me is going to be on Instagram, just at Danny_Lehr. And that's Lehr is how you spell Lehr. Also, one more thing, if anybody has an event, you're looking for speakers, I actually just opened up my calendar for the quarter 4 here and into 2026. So I'm out there doing some different speaking engagements at colleges, also business conferences within businesses themselves. So if you're looking for a speaker and any of my message resonated with you, just go to winyournexthour.com or dannylehr.com, and I'd love to connect.
All right. And I'm going to make it easy for everyone. They don't have to worry about spelling. Everything's right down below, from your website to the book to your social media. I encourage people to reach out. I know I'm going to be picking up a copy of that book. I just love also supporting guests, but then also with my own personal development and just making sure I'm giving myself more tools for the toolbox, because the tools that might have worked maybe a year ago, they might be obsolete. So it's important to continually learn new aspects, because they say you can't teach a old dog new tricks, but if you ever find a dog that's willing to learn, then they will find any way to do it. So you just have to be that person to give yourself that mindset that maybe you are a seasoned person in life, and maybe you do want to make some changes. Maybe you finally do want to step into your calling, and you just have to give yourself this idea that you can win your next hour. So I do want to thank you, Danny, for coming on, spending some time, and of course, talking about your work in your book today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me.